Hi everyone, sorry for the poor lighting, but I hope you can see me. Hi, my name is Samira and I am the GDG co-lead for Accra with my lead Shadrach, who was leading this series from last week. So if you were here last week, I'm sure you have learned some Flutter, at least for the environment setup and all of that. And today we are going to continue the course with the same instructor along with a GDE or a Dart Flutter GDE who will be here with us to answer any questions that you will have. But for the meantime, Etonam is going to go through the course, continuing from last session. So in case you have any questions from last session, please note them down. And if you have any questions from today, also note them down after the session. After the course ends, Randall will be here, Etonam will be here, and they will answer your questions fully. So without much ado, I'll hand over to Etonam, and Randall will come in later after Etonam's course. So enjoy the show.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And so to give a recap of what we did last week. So last week, basically, we looked at what is that, why that, and why Flutter. And then we look at the installation of Flutter itself, and also where to find help when you are coding Flutter and you face any issue. So that slide has already been shared. So since today we'll be starting our main development, that's implementing this UI. So this is just going to be a UI implementation. There's not going to be any logic behind it. So the logic will be our third session, where we'll then be introduced to the Dart language itself, so that we can be able to know basically how to implement or how to write your logic in Flutter, since Flutter uses that, right? So this is a simple UI. It's just a weather app showing the weather of a particular area. So that's over here is New York. We have the weather is off, so it's cloudy, and an image here showing that it's cloudy. Then we have the degrees here. Then we have the weather for the next day at the bottom. So we'll implement this UI in short time. Let's see. Okay. So so last week we installed Flutter. We set up Android Studio. We set up VS Code. Basically, we did all the setup for Flutter, and we created a dummy project, which is what I'm running now. So it should be up in some few seconds. But to explain, first let me explain the folder structure of a typical Flutter project. So with a Flutter project, you have the root file, which is your project file. So in our case, that's the weather app. Then inside this root file, we have other subfolders. So one is .dat tools. So basically, this is just configuration for your Flutter project, and it's something that you don't have to touch, because it's a folder that's used by your editor to basically track what you are doing, or how many times you've built your project and all that. Then the next one is a .idea file, which is also your IDE or your text editor's folder. So with that one, so you don't really need to touch it. Now we have the Android folder. So since with Flutter you can code Android and iOS app, web and desktop, that's Mac OS, Windows, and Linux, right? So they all have their own project folders. So this is actually a full-fledged like Android project folder. So the reason why this is added is there may be some instances which I think I explained last week, but I will still say it again. There may be some instances that you need to implement a very unique feature which is not available in Flutter, or you will need like you needed to implement a library in in Android, like native Android, which you can't do that in Flutter, right? So in that case, you basically just you can open this folder. So for example, when I click on this folder, when I right click on it, there's an option here called Open in Android Studio. So basically, I can open this particular folder in Android Studio as an Android project, and basically do my integrations over there, and using what we call a platform channel, you can then connect your native Android code, that's Java or Kotlin, to your Flutter side, that's your Dart code. And the same goes for iOS too. And so with this, I'm not using the latest SDK version. That's why you can't see the web, the Mac OS, the Windows, and the Linux over here. But if you're using the latest version, you should see all those folders here, and the same applies for them. You can implement native code or native libraries inside them, and just call those integrations in your Flutter code. So we have the build folder. So the build folder is basically what is generated when you run a Flutter project, or when you build a Flutter project. So basically, these are just files that Flutter has cached down or has created down, so that the next time it is running, it doesn't need to create some of these things, since they are already created for you, or since some of these things are already there. So this is a build folder. Sometimes if you are running your project and you realize that there's an error, for example, it's not recognizing the new changes that you've done or you've made, you can easily just delete this folder, and when you run it again, it will recreate it, and therefore like recreating every single file that is there. So we have the iOS, which I explained, the same as the Android. Then we have the lib. So the lib folder is where your Flutter code or your Dart code lies. So this is like your main coding space. So when you open it, you see a file called main.dart. So that is like the point of entry in your Flutter project. Then the next folder is the test. So basically, you need to write tests, right? Your integration test, your unit text, your widget text, and all that. So all these tests, they go into this folder. So as you can see, there's an example test over here, which it's just saying that it's, so basically it's for the dummy project, the dummy code that is here for the counter app. So basically, if you have any test, you can just write it in this folder, and using the command flutter run test, you can basically just run your test cases and check what is working and what is not working. Then we have the .ignore for Git. So if you have a secret file, right, your API keys in a file or in a folder, your configurations, and you don't want to push those files to GitHub, you can easily just add those files over here, and it won't be submitted to GitHub. Then we have .metadata. This is also a Flutter configuration file, as you can see here. It tracks the property of your Flutter project. We have .packages. So basically, some of the packages that have been generated in this project. So some of them, you may not even install anything, but Flutter itself depend on some packages, or there's some packages which are inside Flutter itself, right? So basically, you see some of those packages over here. Then we have the prospect.lock. This lists every package that your application is using. Then we have the prospect itself, which is where you add your packages, so your library, your plugins, and yeah. So you add them inside this file, and to go over this file, right? So this is a YAML file. So a typical YAML file, it deals with indentations. So if you don't know and you mistakenly move something out of place, for example, this published to, if I move it out of place and I try to save this, it's probably going to give me an error, as you can see over here. So this file is very sensitive to indentation. So you always need to look out for that. It usually gets people a lot, the indentations. So you have your project name here, a description about your project. So as you can see, the comment here, remove this line if you wish to publish to pub.dev. So pub.dev is basically where you can find your Dart and Flutter packages. So every package that you need in Flutter or Dart, you can just find them here just by searching them. Then we have your project version. So for example, if this is since this is my first version, right? So this version 1.0.0. So this +1 here is the build number. So for instance, if I've deployed this on Play Store and App Store, and I've made some changes and I need to deploy it again, I have to basically change the build number and also increase the version by 1. So depending on the numbering scheme that I'm using, I can basically just increment the counter or the number to basically let Play Store and App Store know that this is a new version. Otherwise, when you send the same a different, let's say the same app with the same version number, but like it's an update, it will basically be rejected, or you get an error on Play Store and App Store that version already exists. So that's how the version 1 works. So we have your environment. So your environment basically is the Dart version you are using. So basically this is saying that it is using between version 2.7 to version 3.0. Yeah. So if you are using the new version, that's the latest version of Flutter, this is probably going to be version 2.12, I think. Yeah. So like based on your Flutter updates and the version you see over here. So we have dependency. So basically, the whole project is depending on Flutter, right? And basically is something that is an SDK. And under this dependency, we have other dependency, which is the Cupertino icon. So this is for iOS icons. So if you want to use any iOS icons, this is added by default for you, which you can just use by calling Cupertino icons dot the icon name. Then we have dev dependency. So these are dependencies that when you are building your release version of your app, or even the debug version, it doesn't include those packages to your code. So these packages are basically just for your development process. When you build a release, basically it removes these packages from your code. Then there's some configurations for Flutter itself. Basically, we are saying that it should use material design. So basically, what you can see in my simulator here is like what you call the material design. Then there are some other configurations. For example, if you want to add assets, which we'll be adding assets. So basically, when I get there, I'll explain it more how to easily add your assets, and also adding fonts. If you have a custom font that you have to use, you can easily um, add it and reference them here. Then you can then use it inside your code. So then outside that, we have your README, basically um, showing a description of your app, maybe how you can run your app. For example, if you implement flavors in your app, right, how you run the app is different from how you normally run like a normal Flutter project. So you can easily put it here so that in case someone else sees your code base, they can read it and know how to run the app. Then we have this, which is basically another configuration for your Flutter project. So we'll basically delve into the lib folder, which is the main.dat, and I'll explain the code over here too. So the first, so apart from our import, right? So basically we are importing material. Remember inside the pap spec.yaml, we stated that we want to use material design, right? So basically over here, we are importing the whole material library. So then after that, there's this line of code here, which is void main. So the entry point of your Dart code, right, is the main. Just like Java. Java also uses main. Kotlin also uses a lot of C family languages, which I explained last week. They usually use the main keyword or the main function as their entry point. So as you can see here, this is basically your entry point. Even that is why you can see this run and debug even at the top here if you're using VS Code. Then inside this function, we have the run app. So run app is basically a keyword, I'll say, a keyword function inside Flutter itself. So basically, we are saying that it should run an app, and it takes the root widget. So the if you look at a tree, right? So let's take a tree for instance. The root of that tree is basically what should I say is the source of the tree. Yeah. So over here, the run app, as you can see in this explanation here, like it runs the root widget of your Flutter project. So whatever you put here, once it's a widget, that's what it will run. Then we have so this is it's a class which extends to a stateless widget. So in Flutter, we have two type of widgets. We have the stateful and the stateless. So the stateful means that this widget has a state. It having a state means that it is able to, should I say, keep its position or its posture or its data, even if it is being rebuilt. But with a stateless widget, once it has a data and you rebuild that particular widget, right, it loses the data because it is not able to keep that data. So let's say the state will be something like a container. So stateful basically means that maybe it has a container that it is keeping that data inside. Even if you rebuild it, that container is there, that data is still there. But with stateless, it doesn't have any container. So once you put any data in there, once you rebuild it, it loses the data. Although stateless are more performant than stateful, there are some instances where you have to use the stateful widget, and there's also some instances where you have to use the stateless widget. But by default, always, anytime you are creating a new widget, right? By default, create a stateless widget. So basically, only create a stateful, only change it to stateful if you know, like, or if you're about to use a state. So that is a tip when you are creating a new Flutter files or a new Flutter widget or page. Always create it as a stateless widget. Then inside here we have the build method. So basically, we are overriding the build method, and the build method takes the build method basically takes a build context, and also it returns a widget as you can see here. So it returns a widget and also takes a build context. So a build context basically handles the location of the widget in the widget tree, as you can see over here in the definition. So basically, where the screen you are or the position you are in the widget tree, that's what that the build context determines it. So inside our widget, the material app, right? So the material app is it right currently is the root widget. So this material app is what gives us the ability for us to see all these colors and yeah, all these colors. Basically, it also sees the material design because it is a material app. If we take this off and we just use something like a container, which let me see if I can just do that here. Yeah, so as you can see, we just have a black screen. If I try to enter, let's add a text. Okay, so yeah, so basically it's complaining that we can't do that, right? So we need a mature app or a widget app, as you can see over here, to be the top level of our widget tree. So we need to put, let me try and, so you need to put this mature app or widget app at the top of a widget tree. That's why it is the first thing you can see here. Then inside this, we have a title, then we have a theme. So basically you can specify your theme, that is how you want your app to look like. Then we have the home. So the home is basically the first widget that shows up. So the next widget after the root, the root widget, I'll say. So which is this my widget page here, which is what we have at the bottom over here. So this widget basically takes title as an argument, and the my homepage basically is a stateful widget, as you can see here, and which means that so this particular one it has a state. Remember, this one it doesn't have a state. The my app doesn't have a state. But my homepage has a state, and its function is basically it takes this counter which is 0, and anytime you run this function, the increment counter, it add one to it. That's it. And it calls the set state to basically force a rebuild of the UI. So to experiment this, so we have it 0 here. When you click on this button, the floating action button, which is at the bottom over here, when you click on it, as you can see, the number keeps changing. And when you go back and change the color of our app, right? So this is amber. So let me change it to red, right? In normal sense, the the whole app is supposed to rerun again, and therefore we would have lose our count here. But with the power of hot reload, which is it just it goes to change just what the particular variable we change in our code or whatever we change in our code. It goes into the widget tree and change only that particular piece of code. And then our counter is not affected. So like even if you basically rebuild this, the counter is still not not affected. So this is basically the dummy project. We will not be really using this. We'll be creating our own home page. So let me take out this comments over here. And let me just call it home page. I usually call them views, but let me just call it home page. So also there are some shortcuts that you get with your ID or your text editor, right? So for example, if I want to create a stateless widget, right? So a widget that doesn't have a state. So me just type in STL, you get this option here. As you can see, the first option, Flutter stateless widget. When you type STF, you get the stateful widget, just like that. So over here, I can just type the STL and just hit enter. So now it's asking for the class name, which will be home page. Now the error is gone. And when you run it, basically, there's nothing here. So looking at, let me see if I can. Yeah, so looking at our design, right? So I can just move this. Yeah, so looking at our design, we have an icon over here and a text over here, a text over here, an image here, another text over here. We have some other things in the row. So to also explain this, in Flutter we have some layout. How do you call it? Should I say layout widget? So this widget basically determine where you position your like other widgets. So when you go to flutter.dev and you go to the documentation, when you click on the widget catalog, right? So you'll see all the widgets in Flutter over there. I'll say most of them, yeah. The rest of them you can always refer to the API documentation, this API reference, and you get the rest of them. So as you can see, we have single child layout. So this widget, they take only a single child. That's just one child. So they basically position that child in whichever way that you specify. So we have the align, aspect ratio, and call. Then we have other ones which takes multiple children. So that's so multiple child layout. So you have the column, the custom multiple child layout. You have the flow, the grid view, and other stuff. So looking at our UI, right? So we'll be using this column over here. So we'll be using the column as the layout we get to position our, what is this? To position our child. So, but before that, I have to basically call the scaffold. So, you know, in building something like story buildings, right? So we usually set up scaffold. So this scaffold basically they guide the contractors to basically know know how to position each of the pillars of the building. So over here, this is also a similar scenario. This gives you some default properties which you can easily use, like the app bar. So the app bar is basically what you usually see at the top of most apps with the app name. So that's usually the app bar. So we will basically also create one. So let's make app. It's called app bar. I see we have, so this red portion here is the app bar. But looking at our design, everything is white, and we have an icon here. So we're doing that to basically we can set background color white, and over here there's an elevation which we don't want, so basically I'll just set elevation to 0. Right, so it's now gone, but I think I can still see the difference between over here and our app bar. So in that case, let me just set the scaffold background color to give everything like the same color. Usually with this, you have to do all this inside your team, right? But teaming our app now will take a lot of time, so I'm just hard coding the colors in here. So with this method, you won't be able to basically do the dark mode and light mode switch, but in our next lesson, we'll look at how to do that. So basically, everything looks the same now. Then we have an icon at the beginning. So we have an icon leading the bar. So over here, we can just, I'm just going to put a similar icon there. Which is, let me see, so something like filter. Okay, so I think our icon color is also white, so we can't see it. So let me just change the color to black. Okay, this is what we want. Something like filter. Then let me just add. Let me add a plugin to give us an icon. So as I said earlier, usually to get a plugin, you just go to pub.dev and search for the plugin that you want, right? Or even there's this site that I usually go to, which they categorize this wall for you to, so you can easily go to this site, fluttergems.dev. Then you can basically even see a preview of what you want, and they've categorized all the plugins that you need. So I'll be using this Flutter icons, and also, so in order not for me to be leaving my editor and always coming back, there's this extension for VS Code and also Android Studio that I discover. It's called Pub Assist. Yeah, so Pub Assist, right? So when you basically install this, it helps you easily add your package without leaving your editor. So it's like command. So I'm using a Mac, so Shift Command P. I'll get this option here. Then I have Papa State, add or update a new, add and update dependency. So you can just click on this and type icons. So it's basically search for it And if it's available, it will add it. So as you can see over here, it's already added it. But I'm pretty sure you're going to get an error because, okay, well, all right. Then I think the package hasn't been upgraded to null safety. Yeah, it hasn't been upgraded to null safety. So basically that's it. We now have our package added. So and to use this package, right? So there's what is this thing? Yeah, this okay, over here. So there's a way to get all the icon names, right? So this is basically a port of a library in React Native. So I can basically search for filter and see whether I can get something similar to use. Wow. I think it's something similar. I think let me just use the hamburger icon. That's I think you know. Sorry, yeah. So let me just use this. Then we can move on. So the next inside the scaffold we have the body. So the body is basically all the areas below the app bar. That's the body. So that's where your main code or your main design goes. So over here, I'm going to add a column, right? Since I have a lot of other widgets to align inside it. So this I wish I can just be seeing this while also coding. Okay. So we have the text, then we have another text, then an image. So to add that inside the children of the column, you add text and code and to style it, right? Since this text is big, so we can style it by saying style. So the style is let's say an attribute or a property of the text widget. So even when you put a cursor on it, you can see the other widgets that are available for you to use. So to style this, I'll call the text style and say font size is 30. Let's see how that 30 looks like. Let me make it a little bigger. 6. Okay. And looking at the UI, it's bolded. So you add the weight. So the font weight basically determines the weight of the text. So let me just use bold. I think it's too big, so let me just make it 600. Okay. And this is supposed to be at the center of, yeah, it's always at the center. So the column also has its own properties or attributes, as you can see over here. So it has the main axis alignment, it has the cross axis alignment, it has the text direction, and other stuff. So you can always visit the Flutter documentation to explore most of these attributes. So I'm just going to set the cross axis alignment to center. I think this should do the work. Okay. I think it's yes. All right. Yeah. So one thing about the column is, so the column always wrap itself around its children, right? So let me so I can get back to the dot. So this, for example, if you have like 3 children inside the column, right? The height of the column is equal to the height of the all the three children. I know that is clear. But so the column is not a scrollable widget. You can't scroll it. That's one thing about it. You can't scroll it. So if you need a widget that you can scroll, you can easily use the list view. So the list view basically gives you the ability for you to scroll that. And okay, so this is it. So the list view is like similar to the column, but with this one you can easily scroll it. So the list view takes the full height of the body or the screen. So I think I have to basically use the center widget to position the text. So anytime you click on the text or a widget, and you see this bob icon here, it means that there are some other options which you can use. And when you click on it, you have wrap with a widget, center. So you can add another column, you can add a container, you can add padding, you can add a row, and other options. So over here, I'll just add center. Yes. So as you can see, we have our text in the middle. So just below the center, right? So this is all now one widget. So just below the center, I'll add another. Okay, I think our time is up. So let me just add this, then we will move on. So let me just add Accra and over here, and also how it just like the previous one. So I would say the size should be 16, and the weight, there's a default weight to it, but I want to set the weight to normal. And also the color should be gray. So let's see how this looks like. So we have it here, just like our design, right? So in our next session, we'll look at how to add the images. So we'll add different images to it, then also finish up with the rest of the other widgets. That's the text and the row over here, how to create a row of widgets. So if there's any question.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Bright Etonam. We are really learned a lot from you, and I think we are really enjoying the session. What you have for us finally, or what you are trying to build with us, is really awesome, and I can't wait to have a feel of that. Looking at it, how it looks so cute, and Flutter is really great. Yeah, and we have one of the godfathers here in the yeah, GD Flutter Dart GD, and
Yeah.
yes, so is the original GDE, original Flutter GD. It's with us today, and he's come to answer your questions alongside with Bright. So I see couple of questions here, and I'll just be taking them one after the other. So the first question we have is from Kingsford Ejiri. So he made mention of API packages and materials. What are they? So this is what Kingsford want to know. So Bright, maybe this for you. Then after you,
Okay.
yes, after Bright, then if you have something to add, Randa, then you can just add to it.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So API basically is an acronym for application programming interface, if I'm right. It's been a long time. Yeah. So and so with API packages, right, and material. So imagine that you have your app, right, and you can't have everything inside your app, or you don't have everything um, presented to you. So with Flutter, right? So the Flutter team, they've created some of the widgets already for you. They've already created some of it so that you don't have to suffer recreating a button, something like a button, or you have to create a text widget by yourself, right? So they've basically created all these things for you. So these are basically like packages that are already there. So all you have to do is just go and fetch it and add it to your code. That's what package. So an API is also a service or a service or a piece of code somewhere that you can easily call into your code to perform a particular action or function for you. That's it. So with that one, you can choose to also create it yourself or and outsource it, or just go and pick whatever is available. For example, when you look at Flutter, there's an API called the service API, right? So it has other things inside, like checking the whether your app is running inside debug mode or release mode, and all. So all those functionalities have been written already by the Flutter team for you. So all you have to do is call that service and call that function and make use of it. Like that's it.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. So, Randall, in 1 minute, what do you have to say about this?
I'll just add to that, just to make it clear that an API is typically talking about the live connection that your app will make to go out and get data. Like you're building a weather app. Wouldn't it be nice if it was the actual weather? And you can do that by constructing an HTTP call. And there are tools provided for that. There's a web, essentially a web client that's built into Flutter. And you can go out and hit a particular URL that we can talk about that tells you what the weather is anywhere you want for free, up to a certain limit per day and up to a certain other conditions and things like that. But it generally, there's a lot of really interesting free APIs out there that are really fun to play with. Packages are more like the things that you can get and you add your pub spec to be able to include them, just as he said there. And materials is basically the name for the design that Google came up with to make websites all look really slick, and to make now mobile apps initially mostly for the Android when it started. But now, of course, Flutter is part of Google. So Flutter is the only implementation of every single piece of the material design. It's the primary target for the material team. So it gets firsthand access to these things. In fact, you can ship a Flutter app that uses material and install it on Androids that were released before material even existed, and it still has material design. It's really cool.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, thank you very much, Randall. So we move to the next question, which Randall, you can just check this for us in 1 minute. So my question is a little bit out of scope. Don't worry, it's welcome. How do you create database and some useful files at system initialization? Thanks in advance. So in case you have any link to also drop in to help as well, no problem, Randall, you can help.
I'm going to tell you the name of one package. Actually, I'll tell you the name of two packages. No, just one. Well, two. So if you're talking about a database that's local to your phone, so it's only on your phone, not on anybody else's phone. It's just data about your application as it progresses and as you come back to it tomorrow, that kind of thing. There are two best ways to do that. They're both in the pub. That's where you get packages from. One's called Hive, Hive, and it creates essentially key value pairs. So think of it as a map in store or in memory, but it's written out to disk and persistent on, well, whatever the disk is in a phone, but you know what I'm talking about. So that's one. that uses key value pairs only. It doesn't have complex things like most real databases do. But if you're used to using SQL with like MySQL, things like that, there is another one called SQFlite, SQFlite. And that is basically the package SQLite that has been around for decades. There's one of them already in your phone. There's one of them in your laptop. There's one of them in pretty much your refrigerator if you have a smart refrigerator. It's everywhere. But they've adapted it so it will work under Flutter and be able to store complex data with rows and columns and foreign keys and all that wonderful stuff you're used to in dealing with an SQL database. And it works on the phone, works on the web. Oh, no, it doesn't work on the web. Some places doesn't go. But it works on the phone, works on desktop. Very nice.
Wow. 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 This is really awesome.
More questions?
Yeah. So I think.
Oh, sorry. Do you want to follow up to that at all?
Yeah, I think we don't have much question here.
Okay.
Yep. So, Bright, do you have something saying about all of this?
Yeah. So so basically, the person wants to know how to create a database and some useful. So okay. So for me, right, what I usually do is when the app initializes, so inside the the main, right, I then once the app starts, I create the database over there, right? And even in that process, you check whether it's already exists already. I mean, that table or that database already exists. So if it exists, it will return it to you. If it doesn't, it will create it for you. Then you can basically do your insert, your updates and stuff. And you can always use the SQLite because I mean the SQLite has been there for years now. It's should I say the popular local storage database that's available. And there's also the shared preference, but shared preference also works pretty similar to Hive. Although Hive, according to its benchmark, is much faster than shared preference. So those options they are always there. I mean, if you look at the Flutter docs on their website, they have code labs on it. They have some cookbooks on it. So you can always go there and just look through and see how to create a database, how to do the inserts, how to update, how to delete. It's very easy.
Yeah. Also, shared preferences have a very limited amount of space.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's also managed by the vendor OS, so it's managed by iOS or Android. And one of the advantages of storing stuff in shared preference is that you can, if you have to redo your phone, like your phone went sideways and you hopefully been making backups all the time, it will restart with those same shared preferences. If you make a separate SQLite file, that goes away. So you need to be prepared to that in terms of permanence.
Oh, okay. That's cool to hear from you as well. Let me see. I think if I have, okay, I have watched so many questions, and let me see. I think these compliments. I have watched so many things, tutorials, and yours is more understand. Wow, this is awesome. Yeah. So thank you very much, Philip McCarthy, and kindly follow up. Make sure you RSVP the event because we are still going to give you this. We are not going to stop. Since right now we have our godfather in here. We have Randall in here. So probably we are going to give you more and more and more until we come up with success or until we end up getting more success story from the community as well. And with what Bright talked about, I think someone mentioned something. They said, which weather API are you using? So I think this one is to you, Bright.
Oh, we can just use the open weather API. I mean, you don't have to pay anything. It's basically open.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. That's really awesome. Awesome to know. I think some of them are not aware of that. Most of us are beginners, and myself, I'm also learning Flutter for the first time, and I'm enjoying the session already. So, Randa, how do you see the whole show? Since you just joined us today, how has it been so far?
Well done, well done. It's it's a it's a talent to be able to take what you already comprehend and lay it out in a linear way so that people can follow it. And I think you did well. I was definitely listening in and said, "Good, he talked about that. Good, he talked about that." So yes, this is already right on track. So y'all out there, stick around, come back every Sunday. I might be here a few of them, so I'll let you know. Well, they'll let you know. I just come along for the ride.
Sure. Yeah. So this Sunday, actually, this Sunday, Randall is going to be with us. That's next week Sunday. Next week Sunday, the Sunday coming up. Randall is going to be with us, and then he will present some 30 minutes. He will do some magic with us in 30 minutes. So you guys need to be here because we are going to perform magic in 30 minutes. And also, don't forget to RSVP the event. I'm sharing the link right away. So don't forget to RSVP. Join GDG Accra as well. We are going to make sure we give you the best explanation here as well. Yes, so thank you very much, everyone. You have Bright here, you have Randa here. Next week is going to be massive, and I don't think you have to miss that. I don't really think you have to miss that. Yes, so you've all seen what they are capable of doing right now. Yeah, so make sure you don't miss that. Thank you very much, Bright, and then thank you very much, Randa, for passing through. Yeah, we really appreciate. So I will always get in touch. Yeah. All right, so guys, from us, we say bye bye to you all.
All right.
Ciao.